Hello everybody. Today we have selected some political terms that are massively used in audio, video and printed media, as well as we use them every single day in our daily life. So for having a clear understanding of the meanings of these terminologies as well as how to use them, let's keep on with me and see this way we can avoid misunderstanding and misuse of these words. The first word we have is independent state. The next word we have dependent state. Some people may think that independent state and dependent states are kind of similar. Some may say it's different. Some may say it has similarities and differences in it. So I would say we do have some similarities in it. At the meantime, there is a portion of difference in it. So with the first one, independent state, generally speaking, it's a state who can enact laws for internal affairs as well as it can create or cut ties with a foreign entity, organization, government, whatever. But with a dependent state, it can create some internal policies, it can enact some laws, and it can exercise and implement those laws and policies. But for foreign affairs, dependent state is under a superior power, under somebody else, under a different entity. It has the permission of them to create or to do so. Now, there are four specifications for independent state, while the three first ones goes with dependent state as well. The first one, it says a specific land, which means that an independent state or a dependent state must have a specific land which shouldn't be shared by other people. Now the other one is a stable population or resident population. I would say the word resident population is best fitting, best matching than the word stable population, because with the word stable population means that there should be a zero growth, while that is not the case. With resident population, we mean that people are living there and they're not moving every single day from there, or at least the majority is living, residing there, and some of them are going to different countries and coming back, which is normal and okay everywhere. Now with the third one, which is again, it is counted as in independent state as well as independent state, and that is the internal sovereignty, which means that an independent state and a dependent state must have the right, ability, to do, as I said, some examples like enact a law, implement a policy, and all these stuff. But the last one, which is foreign sovereignty, is only related to independent state, not a dependent state. Foreign sovereignty means that they have the ability to create or to cut ties with foreign entities, organization, government, whatever, and they are not under a superior power. But with dependent state, they are not able to do so. So that's the difference. And there's also two other terms. One is called independence and one is called freedom. Freedom has a use of internal affairs, which means if a country is able to do some of the things or a lot of things internally, that means that that country has a freedom. But if they are not able to create and cut ties with foreign entities, that means that they don't have independence. So an independent state has independence and freedom, but a dependent state has only freedom. They don't have any, or it doesn't have any independence. That's the difference. Now the next two words we have is power and authority. Some people may think that they are the same. Some people may think there is a slightly difference in them. The difference, I mean, there are some similarities or commonalities, but it's not entirely the same. There are some differences. Now, one of the definition we can say for power, it is called for illegitimate authority, while for authority, we are saying that it's a legitimate power. That's one of the things. The other thing is that if somebody or an organization is given ability based on legal documents to make a decision, to issue an order, or to stop somebody else, or to do some of the things on his subordinate, that is called the authority, because it's based on the legal paper, based on a legal, legal ability or capacity. But If somebody is using his own personal power, his own personal, strength to influence other people's behave, attitude, decisions, to issue or not issue an order or whatever, that's called the power. So this one looks more kind of democratic and compared to power. Or the other example I can tell you is, if there is a president, there is a vice president or an attorney or a parliament member or whatever, and they have some specific ability based on any legal documents or any policy or anything which is there, and they are able to do some of the things, and they are also asked not to do some of the things. That is called authority. But if somebody has wealth, a good amount of money, and he's using some personal staff for his own safety, and he's kind of misusing in some ways his money or a staff or whatever, that can be power, that cannot be necessarily called authority. So the next word we have is called legal, or legality in it, or legitimate and legitimacy. Again, some people may think that the word legal and legitimate are the same. Some people may think they're different. There is some differences in it. So I can explain these two with two different examples, non-political examples, to make them open. But later on, once we are doing these three, with these three we would be explaining with political examples. So with a non-political example, I can give you one example from Afghanistan, one from United States. So with Afghanistan, in Afghanistan, based on the law, it is legal to get married for male and female when they're at the age of 18 or higher. But if they get married at the age of 18 or higher, it's called legal as well as legitimate. It has legality and it has legitimacy in it. But if they're under 18, let's say they're 14, 15, 17 or whatever, it is not called legal, because based on the law, it is illegal. But it's legitimate, because with the word legitimate, when something looks fair to you, when something looks genuine, when something looks moral, when something looks like straight to the ethical path, that's called legitimate. So it's for the last decades and centuries, people getting married when they are 15, 16, 17 at these ages. So it's totally normal and legitimate thing, while based on the law, it is illegal. That is the example from there. And now we can give you one example from United States. So I'm not sure how much would you like these examples, but I think it really helps to explain these two terms. In United States, homosexuality is legal and people can get married with the same sex. So let's say if there is a particular state or particular county or city, whatever, where people doesn't like marriage of the same sex, even they don't like to see it. So they are carrying let's say a great hatred against that. But if somebody is there and trying to get married with the same sex, in that case, it is not legal. It is legal, sorry, but it doesn't look legitimate to that people, because they don't look at that thing as a fair or genuine or moral thing. So that's illegitimate, but it is legal for sure. Now, with legitimacy, we have three different types. One is traditional legitimacy, charismatic legitimacy, intellectual legal legitimacy. With the first one, when we say traditional legitimacy, that means that something is usual back in days, and until now, it is usual. People practices that. So if they're doing that, that's a traditional thing. Let's say somebody is a king, then his first son becomes king, and then his first grandson becomes the king, and like that it goes on and on. So that is a traditional legitimacy, or there could be another example for that. The other one is charismatic legitimacy, which simply means that a person's personal quality makes him a charismatic, legitimate, or gives him a charismatic legitimacy. Let's say the way he talk, the way he present people or represent people, or representing some different things. People like him or her. People will to hear him and to obey all his instructions. So that type of person has kind of, let's say, a magical power, or a unique thing in him. So he is called a charisma, or a charismatic leader, or he is given the word of charismatic legitimacy. And the example for that is, if you have heard of Hitler, and I'm sure you do. So Hitler, from Germany, he had a charismatic legitimacy. Or if you have heard of Egypt, somebody was known as Jamal Abdul Nasser. So he had a charismatic legitimacy. Or if you have heard of Gandhi in India, he has a charismatic legitimacy. So these are the three different examples for that. But once again, these charismatic leaders or legitimate people, charismatic legitimacy, or the one who's carrying this title, they are not son of a president, they are not son of a king, or they could be in some cases, but generally speaking, they are not son of those celebrities. But since they have a unique quality in them, that makes them, that gives them the title of charismatic legitimacy, and people willing to accept him or her. Then we have intellectual and legal legitimacy, which simply means that if somebody is going through a legal process, and he or she gets selected by people and gets selected by that particular process, so he or she is carrying the intellectual legal legitimacy. Let's say somebody likes to be the president, so the first thing he does or she does is just to be a nominee for that position. Once he's done with that, then it's the time to have his own kind of publication or whatever he needs to do, the campaign, and then people vote. If he is selected by people vote him, then he's selected or elected king or president or whatever. So that's called intellectual legal legitimacy. Then the next word we have is called the fifth column. You may have heard this. It's a really interesting word. The fifth column is called for a person or for a group of people who is working inside a society, inside an entity, an organization, or especially a government, but their activities are favoring to the opponent or to the enemy party of that particular government. Their activities or deeds could be overt, open, or clandestine and secret. But in both cases, they're doing sabotage, they're doing disinformation, they're doing a lot of bad and evil things. And all of them, again, it's favoring the enemies, not the government. They are working in it or for it. So that's called the fifth column. That's the meaning of it. And actually, the background, where did it start from? There was a nationalist general in Spain called General Mola, and he was again nationalist general in Madrid, which is the capital of Spain. It was occupied and dominated by Republicans. So when General Mola was trying to dominate Madrid, and he was moving toward that, so he sent a message to Republicans and told them that, hey, I'm coming to the city with my armed and well-equipped soldiers from four different parts or locations: south, west, east, and north. But you don't have to think that we are only the four columns. We have one fifth column, which is inside the government, and they may not be agree to what you are doing, so their activities are indirectly favoring us and helping us. Most of them are in Madrid, and a lot of them are even working inside your organizations, and they will predispose the ground for us to get inside Madrid, and we will occupy Madrid. And that was the reality. That was what happened. So the credit of this word, fifth column, goes to General Mola, and after that this word was added to political dictionary or political terminology or the dictionary of political terminology. It was added there, and not only that, after that, when somebody was even talking to his household or family member and telling him that, hey, your activities are not favoring our family, it's favoring, the other parties or some other people which we don't like. So he was or she was titled as a fifth column. So it's used even that way. In the last and final word we have for today's training session is called the hegemony. Hegemony, and then 2 points in it. So firstly, the word hegemony means dominance. That's a simple translation. Where it came from, hegemony was used back in Greece, where there was a city-state. One city-state was attacking another city-state, and when they were occupying that and they had a dominance over there, so that dominance was called hegemony, as well as the leader was also titled as hegemony. So two different meanings, the leader and the dominance itself. That was the real usage of that at that time, but coming to 20th century and then 21st century, the meaning of hegemony was expanded in political spheres and economical and especially cultural spheres. It was expanded by Marxist people, by liberal people, by different school of thoughts. So now the word hegemony simply means dominance. It could be cultural, it could be political, or it could be economical. And then we have 2 points. One is called, well, there's one more point we have to say, that hegemony itself has a part of or a portion of satisfaction in it. Let's say there is a country called country A. This country has a dominance and has a hegemony on another country called B. But the country which is B, they are accepting the dominance or the hegemony of that superior with a full satisfaction, or at least with some portion of or some percentage of the satisfaction. So it has satisfaction in it, if not at all, if not 100%, at least some percentage it has satisfaction, and that's called hegemony. So now there's 2 points, contemporary era and then futurology. With contemporary era, it means that once the Second World War was done, some people thought that United States is the hegemony now in the 20th century as well as in the 21st century, and it has hegemony in all over the world, especially with some particular countries. But some other people say no, since 5 people has the right of veto, which in Asia it is 2 of them, like Russia and China. And Europe is 2 countries like England and France, and in America it is United States who has the power of veto. So these 5 countries are there, and they are kind of similar in some ways. So nobody is hegemony there anymore. And with the second point, which is futurology, some people says that China is going to be in succession. It's going to be succeeded. It's going to be succeeding the United States, and China could be a superior power someday, and some even says that hopefully very soon like that. So that's called that's something related to hegemony. So for today's training session, we had all these 8 terms, and I hope you found them useful. And if you have any comments, any suggestion, anything, please share with us, and I do appreciate your timing and watching the video till the end. Thank you so much. Have a nice time.